Airbnb used to be different. There used to be more guests than hosts, but those days are long gone. So here are 6 ways to beat your competition in high season and low season, so no matter what, you get all the bookings and they go out of business. Let's jump in. The first way to beat your competition is to change with the times. And there's a few things that you need to do to stay at the front of Airbnb's interest algorithm, because if you understand that the interest algorithm tells you what guests are interested in, you can chase trends, you can chase traffic, you can adjust your listing for things like peak season, slow season, or just a change in what guests like. Some things trend sometimes, like the Barbie house or Ken's Mojo Dojo Casa house. If anything started to trend, whether it was pop culture or whether it was because people prefer staycations as opposed to exotic vacations, or people prefer skiing this year as opposed to horseback riding or water rafting or whatever, Airbnb will show you that. You just need to know how to do market research to see what Airbnb is pushing from month to month or year to year. If you adapt your listing to Airbnb's algorithm, even in just the slightest ways, you'll have a higher search presence, which means you'll get more views, which means you'll get more bookings. And as you get more bookings, it's a positive feedback loop and you'll stay at the top of the algorithm forever because Airbnb understands that your listing is always best for the customer. And if you don't have your Airbnb yet, this is a perfect time to do some competitor research to find out what listings are doing the best. You can see someone's listing, their photos, their calendar, how much money they're making, all for free right on the Airbnb platform. And with just a little bit of time, you can have a list of the best performing Airbnbs in all sorts of different cities and find out what people like. You might find trends, you might find some best practices that work in any city, but you might also find that certain cities have properties that perform well in one and not the other. And that type of information is absolutely gold, so don't overlook it. Number 2 is to play an aggressive game on pricing strategy, and that looks different in peak season and in low season. You never want to compete on price alone. Those days are gone. Airbnb has too many good listings that are not optimized, and when they have to drop their prices, they'll be right next to you where your price isn't so good anymore because their listing is twice as good as yours. Because of this, let's talk design closer to the end of this video, but outside of design itself, you want your listing to be booked last in peak season because as everything books up, you will see how strong peak season is and you can dial in your prices and you'll still get a very strong rate even with a shorter lead time window. Because if everything got booked and you're the only listing left, people have to pay what you ask. You are the only option left. So playing a slow game in peak season works, but in slow season, you want to do the opposite. You do not want to be left with 1 month left to get bookings or 2 days left to get bookings and be one of thousands of listings with nobody on the calendar. A good preventative, aggressive drive to the bottom. Sorry to say it like that, but it's true. In slow season, you need to get to the bottom that people are hunting for faster. Don't be left out in the cold. Naturally, I have a whole free playlist on pricing strategy on this YouTube channel. I'm also publishing a book for the very first time, The Revenue Manager's Handbook. I soft launched it at STR Wealth Conference this year. Make sure to pre-register for your copy. If you do, I'll be sending you a special gift with your book. The third way to beat your competition is to be more robust. This touches both pricing strategy and your amenities. If you only serve one type of customer because you have a hot tub, your weekend bookings are super awesome, but then your weekday bookings suck, and if you are cursed to 50% occupancy where your competitors are 80 or 90% occupied and things go bad, we have a bad winter, we have a down market, you will go out of business because they just have more cash. There is a concept in this type of business, and not only short-term rentals, but hotels and airlines and events. It's called contribution margin. The way it works is your prices are largely fixed. Outside of housekeeping, to fly a plane is to fly a plane. You've got to pay the pilot, the staff, and all of the gas, and it's largely going to cost the same no matter how many seats are full. In this way, you have a mortgage or a rent payment, software subscriptions, insurances, stuff like that. And aside from your housekeeping cost and consumables, you're going to pay all of those bills at the end of the month, even if you have 0% occupancy. This means that at one point, whether it's 30% occupied or 40% occupied, you break even, and then everything after that is almost pure profit. contribution margin then says it's okay to make 70% of your money on 50% of your occupancy, and then to make 30% of your money on the final 50% of your occupancy. Your first bookings should be big, expensive, awesome bookings, but the bookings that come after may not be as well priced, because as you start to fill your calendar, you might have to drop your prices because they're adjacent to those other bigger bookings, and those adjacent days show up in search less. That's another best practice for pricing strategy, but if you don't want to have to drop your prices all the way down for weekdays, you just need to appeal to another type of customer. Those weekend persons exist in some seasons. There are weekly bookings in other seasons. There's business travel, there's families. So make sure you have your hot tub, have a crib, have a washer dryer, have a fully stocked kitchen, and make sure you have a broad offering for a broad series of customer types, and then adjust your pricing strategy accordingly to catch all of them wherever you can, having a robust go-to-market strategy. Number 4 is to beat your competition where it really, truly matters, which is in the service that you offer. We are in hospitality, which means that more than just a property with a bed and a cool design, you are offering someone a stress-free stay. You're offering someone an experiential stay. You're offering someone a positive, easygoing experience when they arrive to your property, or an exciting experience, whatever it is that you offer, something brand-centric to you perhaps. And this is true from the high-rises in Chicago, to the cabins in Utah, to the bungalows in Bali, to the ranches here in Texas. Every guest is relying on you to make their stay great. People in the United States especially are nervous travelers. They don't get enough vacation time. Yay, capitalism. 2 weeks of vacation time max for some people. And this means that they spend months being nervous in their head about their vacation time. Some people are just neurotic like that. And if one thing goes wrong on vacation, it ruins the whole vacation, especially early. So your check-in instructions need to be tight. Your communication needs to be tight and proactive. You need to see your listing through a new guest's eyes and optimize all of your experiences to be easy and intuitive. If you do this, not only will you get 5-star reviews, but you will get a high frequency of return customers. And 2024 is the year of direct bookings, going multi-channel, telling Airbnb to get lost after the first stay. In order to capture these people and have them stay again, you really need to service them well. Too many Airbnb hosts are entitled and have an adversarial relationship with the guest. They have terrible house rules, terrible tone in their messages. They don't like their guests. They see Airbnb as a necessary evil, and because of that, they treat guests like criminals. People arrive to these Airbnbs to find out that they're unwelcome there, and they will never come back. 5-star hotels will give you a masterclass on how to get return customers. There is a book called The Gold Standard. It's basically Ritz-Carlton's playbook for hospitality and how they get people to come back every time. Read that book if you want to master the art of hospitality and start putting yourself in your guests' shoes. The 5th way to beat your competition is with online presence and marketing. There's a lot to this. Let's cover the obvious stuff first. Go multi-channel. Get STAYFI to collect emails to start to get direct bookings. Start to build out a website for direct bookings. You're going to use that email list to do ad campaigns later. You are also going to develop social media channels, especially if your listings are unique, like campsites. You're going to try to get your listing to piggyback off of other very popular campsites and campgrounds on Instagram. There are ways to do this to maximize your social media presence, and I teach that stuff in my private mentorship. As you develop this wider net of social media presence, the next step is to get to search hack every single distribution channel, which are places that you can be found. VRBO, Booking.com, Google, Instagram, Airbnb, all have softwares and algorithms that choose which listings show up in search, and you need to understand them all. Let me use Airbnb as the popular example. When I launched my newest program, I had a live webinar to accompany a course series. It's called Realgorithm. It's all about placing on Airbnb. And one of the biggest changes that I talked about in Realgorithm just a few weeks ago is that Airbnb is using a new AI software to determine what is in photos. There are ways to get to the front of the Explore page by knowing what that algorithm is looking for in photos. There are ways to get into categories by taking the right types of photos. And beyond the algorithm's relationship with your photos, what you can also understand is that 6 out of 10 travelers look at the photos first on a listing when they land on that listing page to decide decide if they like the listing. And this is important because Airbnb treats your listing like a sales funnel. It's also copied some stuff by Google. It's looking at bounce percentages, the amount of times that people click away from your listing fast. It's using visit duration time, which is the amount of time that somebody spends on your page, to determine how interesting your listing is, which means you need to optimize your listing to get someone to click and then to stick before they check out. This will up you in the algorithm. There are tons of ways to do this to be seen by more customers and to get them to stick, and I call this search hacking. I did another video on search hacking that I think you should watch. And to assist with that new funnel performance is to differentiate. That is tip number 6. And this is not easy when you're new. When you're a new host, you should copy people because the best listings tell you what works. But at one point, you may find yourself in very competitive areas where everybody is good. And in order to continue to perform in extremely hard areas, you need to find a novel offering, something kind of unique, something no one else does. And this doesn't just mean theme your place Disney or Marvel, but if everybody else has light colored walls or low saturation walls, try doing dark colored walls or walls that have a lot of pop of color. You'll have to do great different design. You can also find rare amenities that no one else has yet. Find those trending amenities. You may find you'll have an easier time with this by going to smaller cities. If you go to cities that are not Miami, not Dallas, not Chicago, and instead go to places in Iowa, Oklahoma, Alabama, stuff like that, you'll find that the hosts don't have as much experience and have not had the pressure to grow yet, which means if you have high-level design, you will be better than the rest of your competition. So in a way, number 7 could be beat your competition by going to where your competition sucks. And that's why I have been saying for years that the Midwest is the best place to start a new Airbnb business. But regardless of where you plan to launch your next Airbnb property, for search hacking, watch this video next because it's super important to understand how the algorithm works. For design, watch this video next, 10 things you need to know to make an amazingly awesome Airbnb property. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through to the end. It means the world to me. And as always, I'll see you on the other side.